never heard of Mark Morrison? It was 1996.
Mark Morrison? Whoa.
He's a star. And I just said, you've got to play this record. This record, Return of the Mack, it's going to be huge.
Return of the Mack. Return of the Mack. Running off the back. It's wicked.
Sexual betrayal. Just like I heard it for the grapevine, Marvin Gaye. Sexual betrayal. That's what Return of the Mack's about.
The song is the best song about sexual betrayal since I heard it through the grapevine.
She's like begging him and everything, and he's like, sorry, but the Mack's back, but I don't want you. I want somebody else.
I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna come back stronger than I ever did before.
25 weeks that record was in the top 20 in America.
He asked me for everybody, like the cast and crew. Mark, you can drive, right?
First video to kind of represent black British street culture.
He dropped one of the most iconic R&B anthems of the 90s and then vanished. No fade out, no slow decline. Just boom, a global hit and then gone. Mark Morrison's Return of the Mack wasn't just a song, it was a moment. It topped charts in the UK, exploded across the US, and turned him into an overnight millionaire. That silky voice, that bouncing beat, that pure I told you so confidence became the soundtrack to every breakup, every bounce back, every glow up for a generation. Even now, it still slaps in clubs, commercials, and TikToks. But behind that anthem was a dark, chaotic story. Violence, arrests, weapons charges, a fake community service stunt, and a career that spiraled into lawsuits, broken deals, and prison time, even while the song was charting. So what happened? Why did the man behind one of the greatest R&B tracks of all time disappear? Was he silenced by scandal? Or did fame expose the chaos that was always there? This isn't just a story of a one-hit wonder. It's the story of Mark Morrison, a man who came back as the Mack, only to crash, burn, and maybe rise again. Let's find out why he vanished. In 1996, Return of the Mack didn't just hit, it detonated. The track fused UK R&B, US hip-hop swagger, and club-ready production into a global phenomenon. It hit #1 in the UK, #2 on the US Billboard Hot 100, and eventually went platinum on both sides of the Atlantic. And it wasn't a slow burn, it was instant. Mark Morrison became a millionaire practically overnight. He was 24, flashy, mysterious, and had a sound that stood out in a sea of American acts dominating the charts. He wasn't from New York or LA, he was from Leicester, and still, he was outshining major label giants. Critics called the track too American for the UK and too British for the US, but none of that mattered. The fans decided. Morrison had delivered an anthem that felt universal, heartbreak, betrayal, and the ultimate revenge arc, all served over a beat you couldn't ignore. Suddenly, he was everywhere, magazine covers, talk shows, clubs, award stages. The Mack wasn't just back, he was a moment, but as fast as it came together, the cracks were already forming behind the scenes. Because with fame comes pressure, and with pressure, chaos. Mark Morrison wasn't born into fame. He was born in Hanover, Germany, raised in Leicester, England, and spent time in Miami, absorbing the sounds of American R&B, while navigating the struggles of a working-class upbringing. In Leicester, he wasn't just a local talent. He was a kid who stood out. He had a vision, a voice, and a hunger to break through a music scene that rarely gave UK R&B artists a serious shot. But Mark didn't play the waiting game. He brought confidence, swagger, and business acumen that was rare for a newcomer. When Return of the Mack blew up, he didn't just upgrade, he transformed. From council estates to luxury condos. From riding the bus to riding in a chauffeur-driven Mercedes-Benz. Diamonds, custom suits, velvet jackets, cigars. Morrison embraced a high life with zero hesitation. But money amplifies everything. Freedom? Bigger. The ego? Louder. And the problems? They don't disappear, they grow teeth. Behind the scenes, Morrison was surrounded by controversy, whispers of street ties, and growing tension with both the media and law enforcement. The luxury came fast, but the chaos came even faster. The Mack was back, but so were the demons. Before Return of the Mack ever touched a chart, Mark Morrison's name was already known, but not just for music. In the mid-90s, a nightclub altercation in Leicester turned deadly. A man was stabbed and killed. Morrison wasn't charged with murder, but his name was linked to the incident. That cloud would follow him forever. The case put Mark on the police radar, and on the public's too. While most artists were trying to shake their past to clean up for the spotlight, Morrison's came crashing through the front door. He denied involvement, but tabloids loved the narrative. A streetwise, arrogant R&B star with a criminal streak, that image real or exaggerated, would come to define his persona. To some, it added mystery and toughness. To others, it screamed trouble. The irony? Return of the Mack was just months away. He was on the edge of global stardom, but the baggage from his past was already weighing down his future. Morrison didn't try to hide it. If anything, he leaned into it. But fame mixed with unresolved street heat is a dangerous cocktail. And for Mark Morrison, it was only the beginning of a wild ride. Here's the wildest part of the Return of the Mack story. Mark Morrison wrote it in jail. In 1995, just before his breakout, Morrison was locked up on charges connected to that earlier nightclub incident and other infractions. But while others were sitting idle, Mark was plotting. From a jail cell, he crafted what will become one of the biggest R&B tracks of all time. And that's what makes Return of the Mack hit harder than people realize. It wasn't just about a breakup. It was about betrayal, survival, and revenge. You Lied to Me wasn't just romantic, it was personal. He wasn't singing to an ex. He was singing to an industry, to a system, to everyone who counted him out. That chorus, that bounce, that confidence, it wasn't marketing. It was a declaration of war. When he was released, Morrison walked out with a vision. He had the song, he had the swagger, and most importantly, he had the story. Return of the Mack wasn't just a comeback anthem. It was a Prison Platinum prophecy, the sound of a man turning a sentence into a statement. And the world, it wasn't ready for what came next. In the Return of the Mack video, Mark Morrison looked untouchable. He wasn't just a singer, he was a boss. Suits, rings, Bentleys. He strutted through London with the swagger of a kingpin. The persona was airtight, smooth, rich, and controlled. The Mack was back, and he ran things. But here's the twist, it was mostly a performance. Luxury cars? He couldn't even drive them. At the time of filming, Mark didn't have a driver's license. That big boss energy was part image, part illusion. And in the music industry, that's not uncommon. But with Mark, the gap between persona and reality started to grow dangerously wide. Behind the suits and cigars was a man tangled in legal issues, constantly under police scrutiny, and allegedly still involved in the streets. He wanted to be Diddy and Suge Knight rolled into one, a singer with CEO energy and gangsta mystique. But that image became harder to manage. Fans saw flash. Authorities saw fraud. Mark Morrison was selling the fantasy, but he was also living like it was real. And when you blur the line between character and reality, the fallout hits twice as hard when it breaks. As Return of the Mack dominated airwaves, Mark Morrison's personal life was spiraling out of control. Just when the fame should have taken him higher, the scandals started to stack fast, and they were wild. He was arrested at a London airport for carrying a 23,000-volt stun gun. Yes, an actual weapon. Not long after, he was accused of robbing a West End club. The charges were messy, public, and damaging. And while fans were still dancing to his hit, Morrison was bouncing in and out of courtrooms. Then came one of the boldest stunts in UK celebrity history. He sent a body double to do his court-ordered community service. Literally, hired someone who looked like him, slapped on the shades, and hoped no one would notice. Spoiler, they noticed. When the truth came out, it was international news. The judge didn't go easy. Morrison got jail time again. His career, once filled with platinum potential, took a nosedive. The scandals didn't just damage his reputation. They turned him into a punchline. From pop star to public spectacle, Morrison wasn't just losing fans. He was losing his future. And the music industry? It started turning its back. In the middle of his public unraveling, Mark Morrison made one of the most unexpected moves of his career. He signed with Death Row Records. Yes, the same label that had Suge Knight, Tupac, and Dr. Dre. For a British R&B singer to align with the most feared name in West Coast hip-hop, it was either genius or desperation. But the deal went nowhere. Lawsuits, prison time, and label instability swallowed the opportunity before it could grow. No album, no singles, no rollout, just more chaos. By the early 2000s, Morrison had become unmanageable for the music industry. Too much scandal, too many court dates, too many broken deals. Record execs knew he had talent. Return of the Mack proved that, but working with him became a gamble no one wanted to take. Rumors flew. He was suing labels. He was starting labels. He was making comebacks. But every time, the story was the same. More talk than traction. Even when he tried to drop new material, it was drowned out by headlines about guns, impersonators, and jail time. Mark Morrison was no longer known for music. He was known for the madness surrounding the music. And in this business, that's a death sentence. Morrison pulled off a quiet reinvention, not with a chart-topping single, but with real estate. By the 2020s, he was spotted buying luxury properties in Florida, dropping millions in cash. No interviews, no headlines, just quiet moves. The man who once faked community service was now signing closing papers on beachfront mansions. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't musical, but it was a comeback, just not the one we expected. Today, Mark Morrison remains an enigma. Return of the Mack is still played daily around the world. His voice, bold, cocky, smooth, echoes through clubs, movies, and memories. He may never have had a second hit, but he had the hit, the one that never went away. Was he a one-hit wonder? A misunderstood genius? A walking scandal? Maybe all of the above. But one thing's for sure, he returned. In music, in life, in legacy. And when that chorus hits, you already know the Mack is still back.